the wall, and then also they're premiering operas and doing operas that are written in the last 25 to 50 years. All wonderful things. They had a wonderful opera scheduled for this past fall, the Puccini's Fanciulla, which is The Girl of the Golden West, which they canceled because of, I think, budgetary concerns and things like that, which left a very large hole in the kind of traditional opera enthusiasts' world. So Christine Goerke decided to kind of put together a performance of Puccini's Turandot in concert, one night only, at Music Hall, right kind of very near the Detroit Opera House, which was last night with a live orchestra, full chorus, kids chorus, and some wonderful soloists, including Christine. And it was a remarkably exciting evening of wonderful music, and it was really great. And it actually featured one of our own, Jake Surzin, who sang in that production as well. He started the show, and he was about 20 feet in front of me when he started singing, and it took everything in my body to say, "Hi, Jake." "You're doing great, buddy." But it's funny. He is in that role, and he'll maybe speak to this. It was, I think, how many minutes of music in the whole show? 2.5 minutes of music, but it starts the whole thing. So without him, we would have never gotten going. So, but wonderful. But it was really great to see the energy of the community come out for traditional opera. And while I love modern opera, and I love the kind of the current vibe of getting opera to be a bit more relevant to society, more relevant to political issues around us and the world around us, to be able to hear that juxtaposed with some of the great operas of our history, I think is so important. And certainly this audience felt that. And it was really great to see that. And no doubt a sign of things to come as the energy in the room, I think, will lead to future productions in that space. We'd love, obviously, to see the Detroit Opera pick that up as well, and there would be more collaboration. And we'll talk a little bit about collaboration in general. But if you didn't make it to Turandot last night, it was a one-night only situation. But there will be no doubt one next year, if not in the fall. There'll be more for you to see, and I'll continue to promote that as they come up. So, Jake, why don't you come on up? For those that don't know, this is Jake Surzin. Jake Surzin is the baritone extraordinaire in the Southeast Michigan region. Is also one of our staff singers, a professional singer in the Christchurch choirs, and is what is your official title with Opera de Metro?
I'm the executive director.
Executive director of this new company called Opera de Metro, which we'll talk about and kind of give you a little background of why it came to be, why it's happening here, why I like it, why we like it, why we should all like it, and why all of their productions should be full and bursting at the seams with energized patrons. But I think that's really what I'm trying to do today is to kind of put a spotlight on the work of Christ Church and what we're doing here for the future. But before we talk about Opera de Metro, no doubt I just want to address the maybe elephant in the room, that you've got an email this past week about our departing assistant organist, Jackson Merrill, who will be leaving us for the glorious church on Fifth Avenue, known as St. Thomas, New York City. So congratulations to Jackson. This is obviously a wonderful thing for him. If this is brand new information, go home and read your email from Drew. But we are extremely excited and proud of Jackson. We are obviously, those that know me know I have a fondness for St. Thomas in New York City. And I think my son was over the moon when he heard about this, except that he'll be leaving us. But it's a great feather in the cap of both Jackson and Christ Church, frankly, to be sending him off to this wonderful position. Actually, if I may dare say, to talk a little bit about myself for just a second, which I don't really like to do. However, in 2001, you did a similar thing at Christ Church by sending me as the assistant organist to the National Cathedral. Yes. So I don't know if those of you in this room might not remember that, but I had this Fred DeHaven, my predecessor, had this same conversation in 2001 with the community about my departure going to the National Cathedral. And here I stand in 2026 as your director of music. So, Jackson, keep that in mind. And he doesn't know this either, but there is a very robust group of alums, choir alums in New York City from Christ Church. And of course, they all know Jackson and Jackson knows them. So no doubt we have now connected Christ Church more formally with the presence of Jackson at St. Thomas. While he will be officially the associate for music studies at St. Thomas, he will always be the former assistant organist at Christ Church, Grosse Pointe. So, so we're very excited. For those that are interested in what we're doing next, we have officially posted his position onto the various places that one might look for that, and we hope to have somebody in place by the summer so that they're ready to go in the fall. And because of our work together as a community with To Excel in Love and beyond, we have grown this position into one that I'm very proud to share with the community, and I feel very comfortable that the applicant pool will be very strong because we're offering something that is more representative of what we are as a community, and also is in the grand scheme of the Anglican Church music world, is something that's very competitive and very attractive. So very excited about that. Obviously very sorry to lose Jackson, but very excited for you and Allison. And of course, we look forward to celebrating with him as he departs. So, Opera de Metro. Opera de Metro was started by Jake Surzin and his friend and colleague Madeline Crick and Kellen Dunlap. I actually met Madeline and Kellen when I was covering a sabbatical for a colleague of mine at Oakland University in 2019. It was 2019, and both were, I think, freshmen in college, if that's possible, maybe sophomores.
Kellen was probably a junior, I think, maybe a sophomore.
Madeline, I think, just came in right then.
With 2 years separated.
Yes, now, fast forward, they're now starting opera companies. So wonderful, wonderful thing. And I'm going to let Jake talk a little bit about how Opera de Metro got started and why this is something we need in this community.
Yes. It was July in 2023, and no, 2024, sorry. And Madeline called me while I was out in Colorado for a job and asked, hey, do you want to start an opera company? Out of the blue.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
I was just getting ready for the morning. I was having my coffee. I was getting ready for another gig. She was like, hey, opera company, what do you think? And I was like, where's this coming from? Well, so when I had graduated my undergrad, there were 4 opera companies within an hour's drive of here to work with. There was obviously Detroit Opera, Main Street Opera Theater in Plymouth, Arbor Opera Theater in Ann Arbor, and Opera Moto here in Detroit. 3 of those are disbanded and will not be coming back. So the only opportunity for young singers to perform was with Detroit Opera. And they hire choristers, they get pigeonholed, and they don't get to do any more roles. So we needed a place for young singers to engage with the community and get roles under their belt so then they can become stronger performers. And that was one of our key tenets of hiring local, strong singers that didn't have as much experience because of the lack of opportunities for them. That was one of the biggest reasons to start it. Yep. Along with wanting to do opera traditionally, with obviously we delve into a few contemporary works, like David Conte's The Gift of the Magi, but Purcell's Dido and Aeneas, which featured our own Teddy Sweeney, Magic Flute last year here in our own space, and this spring Nozze di Figaro, another great Mozart work, will be here in May. We want to do traditional works as well as we can in this community because we don't really get a lot of it right now, currently with Detroit Opera. Even with Toledo Opera, they're doing some contemporary works generally, and it's an hour-and-a-half drive. Opera Grand Rapids is 3 hours away to do, you can see Bohème, but then you got to drive back till 3, 4 in the morning. And it's also more accessible with financially. We're not going to be spending $200 for a ticket. We're generally $30 for adults, $20 for students and kids. So it's a more accessible form of the art for young singers to establish themselves in.
It's one of the things that excites me about the Opera de Metro specifically, that we're starting here, or that has been started, is the accessibility for all demographics. I don't imagine, I would like to imagine, but I don't imagine that many of our kids get up in the morning and think, which Puccini opera am I going to listen to while I get ready for school? And I also don't assume that parents are going to spend $500 to take their kids to the Detroit Opera, frankly, and see even the great, like to see Tosca or one of the great standards of the repertoire. And I also don't, I mean, it's all the things I don't expect, but I don't expect people to be like I was when I was 14 years old at Interlochen Arts Academy as an organ student, and my English teacher, all the faculty lived on campus basically, and the English teacher said, I'm starting an opera club. Would you like to join it? we're listening to actually Tosca, and I said, I don't understand, I don't know opera. And he's like, that's okay. And he gave me a CD of Puccini's La Boheme. He said, listen to this, and you'll be hooked. Okay. So I went back to my room, and I pulled out my CD player. I'm young enough to have a CD player. And I listened to La Boheme, and completely enraptured by the story, the music, the way it was performed. It was Pavarotti's recording with Karajan conducting and Frani as the soprano. And just something that was out of this world for this 14-year-old influential musician. And so, of course, then I joined the opera club, listened to all these great operas. So by the time I was 16, I had listened to 15 operas. Don't expect that to be the regular experience of somebody in their 14, 15, 16 years old, even my own children. So that being said, I think it would be hugely valuable for them. And I also think it would be a wonderful experience for them just out of pure enjoyment. So creating circumstances where they can come to a safe place like Christ Church, spend a relatively low amount of money, and to see, heaven forbid, people that are near their age performing opera on a professional level, in a performance that has been prepared professionally and also has been rehearsed in a professional way, is something that will lead to eventual, I hope, patrons of not only opera but classical music in general, and also our sacred sounds, our sacred sounds in a sacred space, soaring sounds in a sacred space series. Can't even say my own thing. I think that it's hugely valuable. And one of the reasons that I find it so important to bring that to Christ Church is that I think, well, and I've said this in kind of in passing and also at forums, and I've said it certainly to some of you, is that we are building an empire here at Christ Church for music and the sacred arts. And this is now, it has always been, and it continues to be, and will be even more so, a place where people come to hear something, see something, and they can trust that it's going to be of a certain quality and a certain enjoyment for everybody. And I want that to happen all the time, as much as humanly possible. And to become a venue for guest organizations like Grosse Pointe Theater, which does their 10-minute play festival right where you're sitting, to the Opera de Metro, which did Magic Flute and will do Marriage of Figaro, and hopefully many other things. To the Lakeshore Chamber Singers, which we'll talk about in a moment, and then to our own ensembles, the Christ Church Chorale, the Christ Church Choirs, the orchestras that we put together, Lyra that we had this past fall. What I'm hoping to build is that not only do people come to Christ Church for great music, great art, but that people come to Michigan and want to be involved in that great art. One of the difficulties that we're having in this region, in the Midwest, and also even beyond, if I dare say, in places on the East, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, D.C., and to a certain extent, Chicago, and then to the west, San Francisco, Los Angeles. Those places I've just described have a pull to professional music and professional artistry because there's a lot for them to do. If we were to move as a singer to a big city like New York, we would have a job because there are lots of churches that are hiring, opera companies everywhere, places that pay real wages, maybe not New York wages, but real wages that you can live on. In Michigan, it's very difficult for a professional singer to earn a living as a professional singer. In fact, I dare say it's not possible. It's not possible, yeah. Which is unacceptable for me because I want people to be able to build their craft and have the focus of being an artist and not have to work at Starbucks in the morning. No offense to Starbucks. Now, granted, if you're in New York City, you do that too to a certain extent because the rent is more expensive than your pay usually. But there aren't enough opportunities for professional singing and professional music making, aside from the big obvious ones, which is the Detroit Opera, which mostly imports people from out of town, and the Detroit Symphony, which is the only full-time musical job in the city that's related to performance. So one of the things that we're creating with Opera de Metro is the singers that come here get paid. Now, it's modest. It is not what they get at the Detroit Opera Stage or the Metropolitan Opera or Chicago Lyric or Santa Fe or Albuquerque or any of those places. It is a modest fee, but it is a reason for people to come to town. Not all of the Opera de Metro singers are from the Southeast Michigan area. In fact, last year we had the soprano that sang in Magic Flute was from
She was from
Tennessee, right? What a wonderful opportunity for someone to come to this region for 2 months, a month. And wouldn't you know it, that there was a church that needed a soprano as well. Why don't you sing with us on Sunday mornings while you're in town? So then the soprano lead and the Magic Flute became one of the choristers in the Christ Church Choir. This is the kind of collaboration and the future of professional music that I'm hoping to see around here, is that people want to come to Michigan and to build a career here, and then have opportunities to perform and to be compensated for such that they don't have to spend 50 hours a week doing something not musical related. It's tricky because we can only do so much, right? We can only have so many things available to the community here, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. That is one of the reasons I started the Lakeshore Chamber Singers. For those, anybody make it to the Lakeshore Chamber Singers? Thank you. Love and support for all of you. The Lakeshore Chamber Singers I started that for maybe three principal reasons. One is the sheer joy of singing that this community I was feeling in the Southeast Michigan, Detroit, metropolitan Detroit area community for singing. There was a group that was started by a colleague of mine named Tom Trenny, who was the organist at First Presbyterian Church in Birmingham, called Sounding Light. Had anybody ever heard a concert by Sounding Light? Okay, well, of course, the musicians in the room would. Anybody not hear it and not sing in it? Okay, yes, right. Sounding Light was a group that was started by Tom that basically got together project-based and performed a concert at various locations. What I mean by project-based is they get together for the first time 6 to 8 days before the concert, and then they rehearse and perform, as opposed to routine-based, which is the chorale, meets every Wednesday night, after 3 months sings a concert, right? So there was that energy that when Tom then moved to Nebraska, he was flying back every so often to conduct this choir, and it was getting more and more difficult to build the community of singers from Nebraska, and he decided it was time for that to come to a natural close. And then he was having an expanding family, and his job was getting busy. Tom is very, very beloved, and so he's on the road a lot. It's becoming difficult for him. So they came to a very natural and beautiful ending, had their final concert as a group. It was lovely. I wish more groups would do this kind of thing. It's to say, the season has ended, let us celebrate. And then, but that energy didn't go away. So I picked it up, because why not, you know? And decided that we needed, that energy that was in the community, and I wanted to foster it and harness it and then present it to everybody else. That was one reason. The other is that there is a part of me that loves a certain repertoire that doesn't get to be performed during a service. There is in the choral canon of repertoire lots and lots of sacred music. You hear it on Sunday mornings. You hear it at our concerts. It's part of the Soaring Sound series. There is as much, if not more, music that is secular, that is not based on sacred text, that has nothing to do with the church, and heaven forbid, might even be contrary to the church. Or challenging. I say challenging to the church. Maybe not contrary. I wouldn't really ever do anything that's contrary to the church. But maybe of a tradition that was not Christian, or a tradition that was not known to Christians. And there is this whole body of repertoire that we weren't really discovering, and we weren't doing anything with here. And so Lakeshore I formed Lakeshore so that we could do some of that music, and we could also take it beyond the church, because not all the music has to be performed in the church. So that's why you saw things like the wonderful piece we did in the fall of 2024 by Tarek O'Regan, The Ecstasies Above, which was based on the poem Israfel by Edgar Allan Poe. very much not sacred, but in the kind of Christian canon, sacred. But a wonderful piece of music that we wouldn't perform otherwise. So that was one of the main reasons I wanted to start Lakeshore. But probably the most important one, and I think the reason I started it, I finally got around to actually starting it, was because the hunger that our professional singers in this community, both at Christ Church and beyond, have had and have been bugging me in wonderful ways about their desire to start a group like this. And to harness that energy for them and to bring them together and to see the joy that I have in directing them, but the joy that they give back in performing has been, while it was expected, you can never really expect the amount that came back to me at these two concerts we've had so far. So those that came to the February concert will know that I chose the theme of love as the theme for that concert. It was February, so you have to have love. It was a week before Valentine's Day. So incidentally, as a side note, I did a concert once on Valentine's Day, and they wanted me to do the Duraflame Requiem. And I said, this was for UMS. And I said, well, could you pick a different day, maybe? Nope, this is the only day we can do. Okay, so so I called the concert "Love is Strong as Death," which is very, very biblical of me, I think. And I coupled that with the Vaughan Williams 5 mystical songs, which I thought was a little bit mystic enough that we could get around the Duraflame. But it was a wonderful concert, but I felt a little bit guilty. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Here's a Requiem. So anyway, the themes about love for the Lakeshore concert really were to give the accessibility to the audience and to feel different aspects of love. We talk about the Christian love and brotherly love, brotherly with the quotes around it here at Christ Church a lot. But what we don't talk about sometimes is romantic love. And so that concert opened up some repertoire where we could talk about romantic love. And then actually, ironically, how love is impacted when you lose someone you love. And so that's how we kind of dovetailed into some of that, although I didn't call the concert Love is Strong as Death. So the energy that the professional singers brought to that and to that music was special. It was special for me. And it was, I hope, special for them. And I'm really excited about the future of that group and what we might look forward to doing. I've already have the next two concerts chosen in my head. So you'll hear about that a little bit later in the spring as we announce next season. There are lots of opportunities for this group. And I think next year's theme, not to give away too much, is going to be a little bit more about what our calling is as a people and how choral music can help engage that. It's interesting, is another side note, but I think it's worth mentioning. During the pandemic, as you probably all heard, that choral music was significantly under threat during the pandemic because for a couple reasons. One is that saliva exists when you sing, and during the pandemic, that was a bad thing, right? So whether scientific, it doesn't matter whether it was or not. But there was a time, I think in the first month of the shutdown, that I think 3 to 5 people passed away from a choir rehearsal in Washington, the state. And so all you heard was that singing is deadly, so don't do it. Take 2 years off. Which, as we're getting into the meat of difficulty, right? What people didn't talk about was at that choir rehearsal where the people got sick, they shared a meal during the break, where they passed each other's plates to each other. So the singing might not have led to it. Well, we don't really know, but we didn't talk about that. We just talked about that singing was dangerous, so therefore singing was dangerous. So we all had to go back to the drawing board. How are we going to exist as a choral program? How are we going to exist as choirs, as singers? And we had a seminar from all of our kind of trade organization leadership came together and said, you know what, you should just assume that you're not going to be able to get a choir together for 2 years, which was a little heartbreaking and terrifying at the time. So of course, then we moved online. We did the online choir, the virtual choir business, which, you get 100 hours of editing for 2 minutes of video, literally. Not always the most life-giving experience for those of us doing it, but at least kept the groups together. But then we had the murder of George Floyd, and everything changed. The conversation completely shifted from safety to what are we saying with our music? What can we do for the world that others can't because we are artists, because we have a text, because we can sing what we feel. Orchestras can do that to a certain extent, but they don't have words behind it. We can actually do things that change people's lives. So the conversation completely shifted away from safety into what are we actually doing? And so choral ensembles started to really ask questions of themselves of what is our purpose? Why are we together? What is community about? And even to a micro level here at Christ Church, we like, what are we doing for our kids in the choir? How are we supporting them? What is the music actually doing? It allowed us some space because we didn't have the day-to-day performing and rehearsal to really take a look at what are we doing with what it is that we're trying to create with our choirs. And it really kind of changed the profession, frankly. Our programs became more diverse. Our messages became more inspirational. It became less, if I dare say, less focused on the music of white male Europeans from the 19th century, and more on poetry that would inspire you and make you think a little bit and have you question some of the things you might have been comfortable with. Really wonderful. Now, juxtaposed with Brahms, right? So I consider something like, there is a way to do this well, I think, is the difference between the Brahms Requiem, which we've done in chorale, to the Jenkins, The Armed Man, A Masterpiece, which we will do in May, which is a very profound musical work that says something, that says we are called to something better than conflict, than war, than raising arms against each other. Certainly, obviously, in the world we live in even today, choral music is becoming more and more important. All that to say is, what is Lakeshore doing next year? Well, Lakeshore is going to dip into a little bit of that. And we're going to start to talk about, well, we'll make it, music will be the purpose of it. We will use the music to maybe ask some questions that we don't necessarily answer with our music, but that we raise some, didn't think about that. And so I've discovered some pieces about some of the things that we're encountering in this world today that will be featured in our concerts next year. So all in the beauty of our building and in the safety of our space, both as a community together and also as a community of singers. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm also excited that we're kind of building this community of enthusiasts around this type of music, and that both as performers and as audience members. So if you haven't made it to a Lakeshore concert yet, I highly recommend it. It'll be a wonderful thing when we put it together in the fall again. We are project-based, so that means we didn't rehearse that music that you heard on February until we started on the Sunday before it. So that shows you the level of commitment and artistry that we bring together, and that, frankly, is kind of normal, but not something we experience in this area because there's not enough of it. So that is the New York thing. That's a Philadelphia thing. The big cities have that. Some of them don't even do more than 2 rehearsals. Yeah. Like, how many rehearsals did you have for Turandot?
2.5.
2.5 rehearsals for that concert last night.
Thursday is dress, Friday dress, Wednesday with the soloists got together. I was out of there in 5 minutes.
You got to sing it twice. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. So that is kind of the model that can be successful if there's enough of that happening, and that's something that I'm excited about happening around here. I want Christ Church to be the center of that kind of the kind of hosting organization for this region. When you are trying to figure out what to do on Friday or Saturday, you go to Christ Church's website. What are they doing at Christ Church? And that's what we're building here. And I'm really excited about how we've been growing the program and staying within the confines of our resource plan at the same time. So we are building whilst building, which is really, really amazing. So I'm excited about that. Talk to me a little bit about, Jake, kind of turning back to Opera de Metro. So we have a couple concerts left this season. We have our St. John Passion at the end of March. We have the Armed Man, the Jenkins, but we also have this wonderful opera that's the Marriage of Figaro by Mozart. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the opera, how you put it together, and what they have to look forward to at the end of May?
Yes. So it's a 4-act opera by Mozart. It's the 15 years later from Barber of Seville, if you know that story at all, but a quick lowdown, a guy likes a gal, another guy helps that guy get the gal away from an old guy. And this one is not too far off. Figaro's betrothed, Susanna, is being encountered by the Count, who is allowing them to stay in their house because they're servants. But he also wants Susanna, who is Figaro's future wife. Shenanigans ensue, and the Countess, who is the Count's wife, does not like that at all. And at the end, it's really about forgiveness and letting them know, like, hey, you're still in trouble, but I forgive you for now. That's kind of the basic of the story. We held auditions in January, live auditions, and we have majority cast from Detroit. I'll be the Count Almaviva. Sarah Mortensen, who was our Queen of the Night last year in Magic Flute, is Susanna. Paul Hill, who was our Zarastro, will be Figaro.
Was also on staff here.
Yes.
At one point. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the other. Our own Aaron Levine is going to be Bartolo, who is a kind of shifty character who. Yes. And our Countess is Alia Mikov, who is from, I believe, the University of Michigan. No, she is at MSU at the moment. So we're engaging singers that are in our community, but also, you know, a little bit aiding with the schools, MSU, Michigan, Wayne State, Oakland University, allowing singers to get opportunities when they may not at the university they're singing at.
So those of you that know The Marriage of Figaro, who has seen The Marriage of Figaro before? Great. Excellent. Okay. Those of you that have been there will know that it's very, very, very long. And if he just went right, I'm going to get to that. Yes, he went right, he glossed right over it. He said 4 acts. It's a 4-act opera. And that instantly says to me, we're going to be here for 4 hours. Are we going to be here for 4 hours, Jake?
No. We are making sure it's about 2.5.
Yeah.
I've cut a good amount that is unnecessary to the story, but it's you know, fun when it's done the whole time. But if you got 3.5 hours to kill, go to New York, enjoy that, because that's a huge production. This is more palatable for our audience that doesn't have 4 hours to just blow. Yes.
You know, it reminds me of the movie Amadeus. You hopefully have all seen that movie. If you haven't, please run home and see it. But I think the prince says to him after the premiere of something, it's too many notes. I think it's too many notes. And Mozart's response is, well, which notes do you want me to cut, sir? And The Marriage of Figaro, if I dare say, is too many notes. It's too many notes, but it's a lot of notes. And it's lovely to hear in its entirety, you know, when you can. But I love the fact, and the same thing happened with Magic Flute. It became, the story is definitely, you can keep the story going without having all the notes. And they do a wonderful job with the opera to make it a wonderful afternoon as opposed to a commitment for the weekend. So, and I certainly, so all that to say is it's okay to bring kids. I think Mozart is a bit of a gateway into opera. So especially Magic Flute and Marriage of Figaro and others. Opera de Metro so far has done a great job bringing opera to an accessible audience and make it accessible to an audience. And I love that about them. So there is a way to do edgy, there's a way to do modern and contemporary, but you can't do that at the expense of your audience. And I think that Opera de Metro so far has done a great job of that, which is one of the many reasons I'm supportive of that organization. I want to take we've done a lot of talking. I want to, if there are any questions that anybody has, burning questions about something, preferably music. Yes, Dr. Marsh. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
So we do swap venues yearly. This is kind of a collaboration, so we want to come here once a year as much as we can. But for example, in the fall, we did Purcell's Dido and Aeneas, and that was done at Christchurch, Detroit, downtown. Our first opera, The Gift of the Magi, was done at St. Mary's in the Hills out in Lake Orion. So we do find new venues, whoever we can, to collaborate with to access as much of Metro Detroit and the outer reaches as possible.
Just in one place.
Yeah.
For opera.
Yes.
At the moment.
Per production, we'll do it in one space, but it would be nice to have maybe one traveling production sooner or later. Yeah.
Both opera. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both Opera de Metro and the Lakeshore Chamber Singers, I think, are willing to shift. We will always have something here, but then we can go there too. And I think that's one of the successes of the traveling, or the current the Detroit Symphony and the Detroit Opera. They've started to branch out. See, Leonard Slatkin did a lot of good things for the symphony when he took over the music director. But this biggest thing was what he started in Washington when I was there, which was called NSO in Your Neighborhood. Now they brought the Detroit Symphony in Your Neighborhood, the William Davidson Neighborhood Series, to bring the Detroit Symphony to Grosse Pointe, to Birmingham, so that. Yep. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah. So that's definitely. I'm also going to pick up on something you said about last night, which I think is hugely important, and this is where I encourage this. What I'm about to say is growing enthusiasts around the arts is like growing a church. And what I mean by that is the only way to grow a church and to grow the arts is to invite your friends and to invite people that aren't your friends. Invitation. It's all about invitation. So if I can guarantee the people that were sitting near me were with people that they knew, because that's how you get enthusiasts for something. The reason I like opera is because Howard Hintz, the English teacher at Interlochen Arts Academy, handed me La Boheme and said, listen to this, and then come to my house for lunch and an opera. You got it. And now I love opera, right? The same thing happens. So if you want people to become fans of what you love, Puccini, your church, Lakeshore Chamber Singers, Opera de Metro, invite them. Take them to dinner. And then tell them about it. Or bring me, and I'll tell them about it. I also like dinner. Yes. But that's one of the best things about opera is that there's a story that you can talk about before and after. You can prepare people, but you can also, what did you think? That's always fun. So, yes, Richard. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Do we want to take the bait? No. I see. So it depends on what your view of world class is. Yeah, I think I will say. It depends on who you ask. And just to be very clear, and not to start a war of which school is the best, because that's actually not productive. I will say that, and I think this very clearly about all schools, actually, because I advise our young choristers and my own kids where the right fit is for their school. And University of Michigan is great in areas, and it's not in others. So, for example, and I'm talking not just about the school as a whole, but in the music school. I would say that I would much rather send someone who's going into music education to Michigan State over University of Michigan. I would send somebody who is going to want to be a concert violinist to the University of Michigan over Michigan State. I would send someone who wants to be an opera singer, probably to Indiana or Eastman, maybe over Michigan, but unless they're a master's. Like every school has strengths and weaknesses, and I think Michigan has many, many strengths. In fact, it's U.S. News and World Report says that Michigan's conducting program is the best in the country for decades, and I wouldn't disagree with that, if I do say so myself. But I mean, if you want to be a concert pianist, yeah, Juilliard. Yeah, there's everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. If you want to be a football player, then you go. No, never mind. Yeah. But Eastman is a lovely school, and in fact, it's one of the best organ programs in the world is at Eastman. So, and that's there are lots of people. Some of the greatest organists have come from Eastman. Other questions, Father?
I'm going to ask a question that you might turn back on me.
Okay. Yeah.
But we talked a bit about the practical impact of Opera Metro Lakeshore Soaring Sound on the music community.
Yep.
Both locally and nationally. So why should we as a church
Yeah.
be invested in this as a ministry, not just a practical gift to the community?
I love that you asked that question. That is fantastic. That is, because I know you.
Back to our first conversation about the Lakeshore thing.
One of the many reasons I like my job here is that the rector of my church just asked me that question. Obviously, you can imagine Drew and I are very aligned about the vision and the mission of this church and where we're headed, and I love that about our relationship. This church is, our mission is to bring God and people together to know and live the good news of Jesus Christ, right? And we do that through community building, so that we can be empowered to go and do that work together. And music does that. The ministry of music is not actually, ironically, about the music. It is about the people involved in the creation of the music and or art. And so that is actually the tool that we use, is the art, to create this community of disciples. And that is disciples in performing, that is disciples in the audience, it is disciples in the staff that puts it together. We are creating, like I said, an empire, and it's not Star Wars empire. It is a Christian one, and that is one that is to serve and to humble ourselves in order to help those that are in need, and to inspire the community around us to live that life. And that's why we do what we do here. That's why Soaring Sounds exists, is so that when people come into the door of this church, which probably wouldn't come, many of which don't come to a Sunday morning service, but that gets them in this building to take at least an hour, 2 hours, to step out of the world of cacophony and into beauty, inspiration, and whether they believe it or not, Christian love for them and the people around them. So that they then go home feeling, hopefully, better about their lives and better about how they can serve their neighbor. That's why we do everything we do. And the music is the tool. Yes, we perfect our music as best we can, and we try to make it of a quality where we try to attract more that can experience that kind of thing. But from our youngest choristers to our oldest chorale member and all the professionals in between, that's what we're about. And that's why we do this. And that's why the church should support that, because it is an outreach for the people involved in it. It's an outreach for the people that come to it. And it's evangelism for the community around us. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'll get to it in one sec, Betsy. I'm not just saying that because he's sitting there and he sort of signs my paycheck. Yes, Betsy. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
That can also be an outreach for
Indeed.
people offering sort of a concert where you might not have access.
Absolutely. Fully supportive of that. And actually, as a very immediate practical thing, if you know of a group of people or someone that can't afford this, what we do, to come to something, bring them. Diane, when she was here, and Tim, who's here now, I always remind her right before a concert starts. I said, because they're sitting at the door with the ticket box, and I say, it is a suggested donation. If somebody comes in, they forgot their wallet. If somebody comes in and I don't have $25, if they made the effort to come to this church to hear us, they go in, period. I will cover it. So it doesn't, we don't do concerts to make money. I hate to say it. I'm sorry. They don't make enough money anyway. So they're just, concerts are not, they are an important revenue stream in our budget to a certain extent, but they are not going to make or break our financial situation here. We are about building community. So the reason we have ticket sales generally is so people feel there's something a bit more substantial. It's easier to attend something if you're buying a ticket because you feel you've invested in this thing, so let's go to it. It's actually, there's studies that say free concerts are less attended than paid concerts because people just blow them off more easily. And that's a overgeneralization of that study. But if you know somebody that doesn't have access, if you know of a group of people that would like to come to a concert that wouldn't have access, talk to me about that. There is one of our bass players in the orchestra lives at a senior community, and she brings a van of seniors here, and I give them a great rate. Like, what can you pay? How about this? Great, sounds good. You know, it's as nothing. I don't like. Well, you have 12 people and $25. None of that. That's not why we do that. So if you want to bring them. That's definitely something we support. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Going to the schools. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Talk about Three Little Pigs.
So with larger opera companies, they do tend to have outreach programs like that. So I'm working this week with Detroit Opera on a show, what's it called? It's about the 4 seasons, so summer, fall, winter, the other one, spring. And yeah, it will, hopefully. And so we prepare for a week, and then we get contracted to go out to schools and perform for a group of 400 kids or a group of 20 kids. It just depends on the capacity of the school itself. And one of the dreams of Opera de Metro would be we have some form of that as well, of outreach, where we can contact schools. We get 4 of our singers, whoever's available, go and perform for them, answer questions after, give a question and answer of, oh, what can we do with the arts? Can my kid do this? Can my kid do that? And engage with the community so then they can feel a part of the opera company instead of having to, once again, go to one thing once a year in May on a Saturday when maybe they don't have the time to. So that's one of the goals of my opera company, but companies do that.
A little bit about the scholarship.
Yes. We had our first annual voice competition for high school and emerging artists, so 18 to 31, at Chippewa Valley High School in February. I think it was like February 12th or something. So that's another opportunity for young singers to come engage with the community, but also win money and accolades so then they can, hopefully get a better scholarship for schools. And also, we see young talent that we may want to hire in the future.
When you say we, which organization?
Opera de Metro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Other questions?
So I just have a comment.
Okay.
I have no musical background.
You always start every comment with that, Betsy.
I know. And I'm saying that because I feel completely at home and welcome in any of the concerts and any of the venues that we've had. And I wouldn't have felt that way 40 years ago, when I first came here. But I think that one of the things that's so wonderful is this is a very welcoming ministry.
Yeah.
The music ministry. And even though you can't sing a note, or I just look at the music when sometimes at rehearsals I see some of your music, I go, how the heck do they read that? But I don't feel awkward or strange or not welcome. I feel like, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to sit down, and it's as much my moment as it is yours or yours. And I think that's really important. And I love the fact that you're going into schools because that will start that feeling early.
Yeah.
And not be afraid, opera, ooh. Well, I'm getting my feet wet on it. But I think it's a very important part of the music ministry is the feeling you have when you walk into the venue, wherever it is. You are so welcome.
I feel very strongly that, and one of the things I've loved about my nearly 20 years experience here is that you all want to know about what we're doing.
Those lectures are.
That's the thing, like when I do a pre-concert lecture, when I do a class or something, like you are hungry to know more, which feeds those performing. I love it. I love that. And I love people that come with no idea that 16th century polyphony started with Josquin de Pré. Like nobody cares, right? You just like you can experience that kind of thing, and then I can tell you why you should love it or why you don't love it, or you can come up to me and say that was not my favorite. That was not my favorite hymn that you did this week, or that will be done at my funeral, which I hear a lot too. So, which by the way, side note, write it down, and then send it to me. Okay, good. Judith, did you have a question or a comment?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I've been singing here for, and it was but also with people, it's what motivated me.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Yeah.
and the people that I bring never been
Yeah.
say what
Yeah.
there are ripple effects that
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I firmly believe that the music brings people here, but the community keeps them here. That's how this church works. So it is, both are so important. I mean, we do nice music, but it's you all that keep them coming. So with that, I think we need to transition. Kids are getting out of Sunday school, and Mother Maureen is nearing me. So.
Here she comes.
Well, thank you both.
Yeah.
As you both started to speak, I remembered, like, what is at the root of my invitation for you to be here today is I get to talk to you, but they get to watch you normally. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunity for them to engage with you in conversation. They see your back a lot. They see
the back of my hair.
right? And so it's just so wonderful to hear both of you speak, not just sing. So let's give them a big thank you.